Alright, so hey there guys, what's good? My name is Tino and welcome to Hello World, and today's video we're going to be taking a look at Deepseek R1, which is a brand new model that's been released and it's supposed to be as good as the OpenAI R1 series. And in this video we're going to have a go at downloading it. We're going to install all of the different sized distilled versions of it, and we're going to try to build a quick Hello World project using it. And that project that we're going to be making is going to be a 3D game. So we're going to be using Three.js to try to build out a cool game. And depending on how that goes, we're going to try to also use this other open source model to generate 3D models that we can put in the game and then have a quick play around with. So the idea is not going to be fully built out, but we're just going to try to see how far this new model can take us, since it's supposed to be on par with the R1 series, which, if you don't know by now, they are reasoning models. So that basically means that before giving you an answer, they take some time to think about it, and that generally makes the answer that they give much better. And in this announcement that Deepseek released on their website, they have a section here in which they show a graph that compares this new model to R1 and Claude and a few other models. We're going to take a look at that later, but the main thing is that this new series of models that they released is as good as R1 series, and also they've released the distilled versions of this model. So that basically means that they've taken that big model and they've crunched it down into something that we can use on our machines. So for me, I'm using a MacBook M1 series, so it's a bit old, but it should be able to run some of these models. So we're going to have a go at trying to see which ones it can run and how quickly it can run them. And then after that, we're going to try to build out this quick concept that I mentioned in the beginning. Alright, so we'll come back and look at all the details in a few seconds, but let's just have a go at trying to install this model. So I'm going to be using AIME to download the model, and then I'm going to be using something called OpenAI to actually interact with the model. So it's basically an open source chatbot UI interface that you can download and install, and it works exactly like ChatGPT. And the only difference is that it's running on your local machine and you don't have to pay for any subscription fees. So you can ask as many questions as you want without having to pay anything, which is great. Before we get too deep into the video, please consider liking or subscribing, or even better, take a look at the main project that we're doing on this channel. I released a video on it last week, and you can find more information about it at seminar.ai. Alright, so like I mentioned in the intro, Deepseek basically released a few different models alongside their main large model that we can easily run on our local machines. And if you're trying to install them, a quick way to do that is to use AIME. It essentially allows you to download all of these models easily and then serves them up in an easy way for other applications on your machine to use. So as you can see on the website, they have a bunch of models, but we want the Deepseek models. So let's just try to search for that. And right at the top, we have Deepseek R1. Inside this repository, you can search through all of the different sizes of the model. So this is the biggest model that they offer, which is 404 gigabytes. Unfortunately, my MacBook won't be able to run this, but the ones I'm really interested in are anything between 7B and 32. This chart here on the left basically shows what Deepseek are claiming. So you have GPT-4 at the top here and all the benchmarks that it was tested against. The smallest version, which is the 1.5, seems to be outperforming GPT-4o, which is what I mainly use to code, and Claude Sonnet. I also use that as well. Obviously, these models are not reasoning models. The only one that most people have access to is R1 Mini. And right now, if you try to use it on ChatGPT, I think on the free tier, there is a limit. Before they announced the R3 series, the R1 series was the best that you could get access to, and the R1 Mini was the second best thing that you could get access to. The smallest Deepseek version outperforms GPT-4 and Claude 3.5. And if you jump to the 14B, that is on par with the R1 Mini series, or it's definitely getting close to it. It looks like in this benchmark, the 14B is beating the R1 Mini series, and anything above the 14B is performing much better than the R1 Mini. So yeah, this is a huge deal, and we haven't been able to get anything like this running on our local machines until now. Let's have a go at trying to download these and see what these can do. My main goal with this video is to see what my laptop can handle locally. I have a Linux machine under my feet right now that has a GPU. Not anything fancy, but that might be the next video that I do, because ultimately I think I want to have a server inside my house that I can call anytime I need text generated for coding and other things. But right now we're just testing it on my MacBook. So yeah, to download the models, you basically pick which version you want. So we're going to start with the 7B. The 7B, they're claiming that it is as good as GPT-4. At least that's what this chart says. and I'll be using this Open Web UI. And the way I have it installed, I'm using an application called Pinocchio. If you haven't come across it, it basically acts like a app store where you can one-click install all of these AI projects that you'll find on GitHub. If you've tried installing any of these manually, you'll be aware of how much of a pain it can be trying to install all of the dependencies, all of the commands that go into trying to running one of these things. So yeah, Pinocchio basically makes it easy to install these, and you can do a one-click install. I think I already have this installed on this machine, so I'm just going to run it. And also the download for the Deepseek R1 has finished. So as you can see, it's been downloaded here in the terminal, and by default, it just starts the model and you can just start talking to it. One thing that I've noticed with running models on OLAMA is that the first message is always a bit slow since it needs to move the model into memory, I think. And then the other messages come in much quicker. And that was a quick test just to make sure that it's working. And as you can see, the main thing about these models is that they think before they give you the answer. So this is the secret sauce that makes them much better than the normal models. So if you compare them to other models that are open source, like the Llama models, they just give you the answer directly without having to think. You can prompt them to think, but they don't do that naturally. All right, so we have the model running and it seems to be running really fast. Let me just give it another quick prompt to see how fast it's generating tokens. All right, so the speed it's generating these tokens seems to be really fast. And if it's a GPT-4 level model, like they claim in the blog post, at this point, I don't really see myself paying for a ChatGPT membership ever again. Technically, I'm not really paying for one these days since I normally use Cursor to code. But with something like this, I can even see my Cursor membership going away if I can link this new model with bolt.dev. And if you haven't heard anything about this, you should definitely look it up. It seems like a really interesting project. I've tried it a few times. With this new model, I'm going to have to really look at it again to see if it can give me the same thing that I love about Cursor, but for free and running on my local machine. All right, so that is the first model, the Deepseek R1. This is the 7B. All right, so I've managed to download 3 models. So the 7B, the 14B, and the 32B. So we're going to test them out right now to see how fast they can generate tokens and to see how usable they are on my machine. I've already done the 7B, haven't done the 14B yet, and I have a feeling that my machine might struggle with 32B, but if it doesn't, we'll use that as the main model for the rest of this project. Okay, so it's been a few hours since I started trying to make this simple Space Invaders game, just only using the local version of Deepseek. I came across a few issues that I couldn't get past, and basically, this is the best thing that has come out of all the experiments that I've done so far. With a little caveat. So yeah, you can go left, you can go right, you can shoot, and the score goes up. So this was done with just one prompt using Deepseek. Originally, I started trying to use just my local machine to do this, but I ended up just using Deepseek R1. I'll get to why I did that in a few minutes. So I ended up basically setting up this environment, which is a basic Next.js application, and it has one component inside. And this component, if I undo everything that I did to this component, basically started off as this spinning green cube. I basically got to a point where I realized the 14B and the 7B weren't going to achieve the goal that I set them. So if I go back to the chats that I've had with it, so we started around 3 today, and I've been going back and forth with it for a while, basically trying to get it to do a simple Space Invaders game. And in every iteration of this conversation, it's failed. I even resorted to just trying to ask it to make a simple spinning green cube. So it also failed in that, which is strange considering the documentation for this model suggests that it should be able to perform at GPT-4 level. So if we pull up the documentation again. So yeah, this This chart here basically suggests that the 14B and the 7B should be able to perform at GPT-4o levels. In my experience today, so far in the last 3, 4, 5 hours that I've been working, it's now 7 o'clock, almost 8 o'clock. So I haven't been able to get them to do exactly what I wanted. So basically, I haven't been able to get them to perform to GPT-4o levels. And to prove that, I basically took the same prompt that I've been giving it since 3 o'clock. I decided to take that prompt and give it to GPT-4 to see if it can do what I'm asking it in one shot, and it did. And basically, that prompt is make a very simple Space Invaders game based on this Three.js and Next.js template. And I gave it this spinning green cube as more context. So I gave GPT-4, which is inside cursor here, GPT-4o. I gave it this exact same prompt, copied it and pasted it directly into the component. And this worked. So you have a blue cube. It looks like Space Invader. So this is not as good as the Deepseek R1, the full version. Not as good as what it produced, but at least this is working compared to the smaller models of Deepseek. So GPT-4 managed to give me this first attempt without asking it to do anything else. When you compare it to the Deepseek 14 and 17 conversations I've had so far, basically all of these conversations are just me trying to come up with different ways of asking it to do that simple task, and it failed every single time. So it's having one last attempt, so we'll see what it produces. So while it does that, let me show you the other experiment that I did, which was, okay, these smaller models aren't able to do what I'm asking it. So I wanted to see basically if the new top tier DeepSeek model would be able to do it in one prompt. So I basically started this chat with DeepSeek and asked it the exact same thing. Make a very simple Space Invaders game based on this Three.js, Next.js template, and then gave it a bunch of context. So the same exact green spinning cube that I gave GPT-4. And it thought for 65 seconds. So it basically had a conversation with itself, a very long conversation. It felt like a long conversation, and spat out this new component. So let's paste that. Sorry if you can hear people in the background. So yeah, let's just put that into the component. So this is what the Deepseek R1 was able to create first time. Which is more of a complete Space Invaders game. So you got red cubes against the green cube. The green cube can shoot, which is much better than what GPT-4 produced first attempt. The GPT-4 version, you couldn't shoot. You could only go left and right. And this one has a score at the top. So yeah, it seems like a decent-ish Space Invader game. Obviously, with more prompts, it could produce something better. So I think I'm going to spend a few more hours on this. I want to add a 3D model, so I really want to get to that point. So yeah, this is the best version that I've had so far. And you might have heard that bleep in the background. That was One UI telling me that this has finished generating the Space Invaders game that I asked for. All right, so this is the 14B model, and this is my final attempt trying to get it to do the simple Space Invader game. All right, so straight up, we're already seeing errors, but let's see if it compiles, and let's see what the page looks like. And yeah, it's just basically an empty black page with a scoreboard at the top. Nothing happens when I move left or right. Nothing happens when I press spacebar. We don't see the main character. We don't see the Space Invaders. All right. And with that, I think that is my last attempt at trying to get 14B to generate this game. So it does have limits. My thoughts on it so far is that it's not really living up to the promise of being a GPT-4 equivalent. I guess this is just one really specific example. I'd like to do more tests, which I'm probably going to do later. I think a fairer test will be to compare it against other open source models to see how it performs. I guess I'm also very limited in what I can test locally because my machine can only run the 7B and the 14B. So I'm going to try to find somebody who can run this 32B on their local machine, and then I'm going to see if they can get it to produce the game using those exact same prompts.